Welcome to another uplifting episode of Say Yeah. Today we're shining a spotlight on a topic that's close to my heart, men's health. You know, we're going to break down the barriers, tackle the tough conversations, and give you the tools to take charge of your health. So whether you're listening at the gym, on a walk, or just relaxing at home, get ready for some powerful insights, inspiring stories, and a whole lot of positivity. Let's get started and say yeah to men's health. What do you say?
Yeah! Did you know that 1 in 8 men get prostate cancer? It mainly affects men over the age of 50, and your risk increases with age. You're 2.5 times more likely to get it if you have a family history of prostate cancer.
With me around the table, I've got Tony on my left, I've got Kerry on my right, I've also got, of course, we've introduced the motivators and stuff like that, but we've got on Zoom 4 different men, all different, and I say different because they're all at different stages of prostate health. And we've also got Dr. Kathy from Ireland, we've got Palmer, who will have something, no doubt, to say about the man that she lives with. Tony, your health. Who makes the decision about when you go to the doctor? Is it you, is it your wife, or do you make it yourself?
Well, I don't have a wife, so that's a first.
Oh, really?
But certainly,
You have a lived-in partner, do you?
me, I make the decisions.
Yeah.
I make the decision about going to the doctor, and whether I go or not is, again, down to me. I have learned over a number of years that it's important. I also know how difficult it is to get a doctor's appointment. But yeah, I definitely make all the decisions about my own health. My mother badgers me about my health, and my father and my friends badger me about my health. But yeah, it's often it would be me that makes that decision. But
Right.
it's not about the decision to go. It's about the pressure that you get put under to finally make that decision to go.
So what made you go? Was it because they pressured you, or was it because you one day woke up and went, something's not right?
I think it always used to be they used to pressure me. Yeah, without a doubt. As I've got older and I've become more aware of the necessity to look after my own physical health as well as my mental health, yeah, it's been me that's made the decisions. But it was a long journey to get there.
And Dr. Kathy on Zoom, let me ask you this. Men are terrible, aren't they, at actually going to the doctors?
There is a little bit of that, which is quite common, that men wait and put it off.
Yeah.
But I was thinking that because we all moan about, when a man has a cold or sniffles, it's man flu and it's very serious. So they'll complain sometimes, and I know I'm talking to a lot of men here, and I could be shouted down. Little things can become very big things in those kind of areas.
Sure.
But when there's something underlying
Yes.
that might need a little bit more investigation, might entail having some more tests done, men push that aside.
Right,
Very
right.
commonly,
Okay.
because it they sometimes it's not wanting to know anymore.
Right.
And there's a fear factor there, I think, as well.
I agree. Men are from Mars and women are from Venus, yeah? Often comes to mind when we think about the distinct ways men and women approach and view their health. It's a catchy way to highlight just how unique our perspectives can be. The professor have got something to add to this.
Did you know that on average men die 3.5 years earlier than women? Men are more vulnerable to infectious diseases, hypertension, drug abuse, and aggressive behaviour.
Yeah, so there we go. That's what the professor had to say. Kathy, let me ask you a further question here. There are loads of messages out there, right, about nutrition, especially around bulking and protein supplements. Can you talk a little bit about that? And then we want to get into the subject of prostate health.
Yeah, so there's a lot of confusion out there about diet and managing blood pressure and how much protein you need. There's always new messages going out every week. So one of the big things that is always a question mark is, do we need to supplement with protein if we start exercising? And if we want to build muscle, do we need to eat a lot of extra protein, and do we need to supplement? I think everyone would agree that's something that we hear all the time out there. And if you think about, if we want to build new muscle, which is a new tissue, we need the building blocks. And the building blocks are a balanced diet of protein, fat, carbohydrate, healthy fats and carbohydrates, and hydration, and all the elements. We don't just build new muscle from eating more protein. Unfortunately, it doesn't transfer into the protein we eat, being transferred directly into protein in the muscle, which is what muscle is made of. So we need a balanced diet. Yes, there is a slightly increased need for protein if we are really trying to build muscle, and for recovery after gym sessions, if we're working hard at, in weight training. And that would be an average about, say a normal person might need about 0.8 to 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. If you're trying to build muscle, it might go up to about 1.2, 1.4. So it's not a huge increase in protein intake that we really need to build extra muscle and to recover after a gym session. And we're always far better off getting what we need from a balanced diet and including protein throughout our day with every meal, not just one big dose of 10 eggs at breakfast, because our body just can't digest that amount in one meal. We're better off spreading our intake of all nutrients and protein in particular throughout our day, a small portion or a medium portion at each meal. And people ask about, protein drinks, protein supplements. It does help us recover. Like if you find you're struggling to eat after an exercise session and you're traveling and getting home after a gym session and you don't, you're hungry, but you don't have time to make a meal quickly. Well, then, maybe a protein drink, protein shake is a good bridge the gap time. It starts that recovery process straight away. It has a bit of carbohydrate, a bit of protein, and it helps your body start recovering and repairing and rebuilding, and then have the proper meal when.
Right, we seem to have lost her for a moment then. We lost you for a moment then. Have a proper meal.
Whenever you get to your home or wherever your next food is going to be, have your proper food. So I'd always say, get your ingredients from proper meals, proper unprocessed food. That was the best way. And a supplement is only ever going to be a supplement. It's an extra to a balanced diet.
Yeah, I mean, we're going down this route because it's all part of men's health. We've learned from the professor earlier that men are more susceptible to hypertension. Considering that diet and exercise can significantly impact this condition, do you have any tips for managing blood sugar levels and blood pressure?
Blood pressure. Well, it is, and you hit the nail on the head there. Diet and exercise are the key things. So in terms of, yes, I mean, largely, we manage, and the first protocol, if you're diagnosed with hypertension, high blood pressure, it's immediately you're put on a medication. But that's, without giving the opportunity sometimes to say, well, let's try and manage it a little bit through changes in your lifestyle, because it's very hard to get everything right, and there's always small changes that can be made in our lifestyle. So first thing is being a healthy weight. And particularly in men, is managing the weight around the middle. So body weight and body fat storage around your middle area. And there's a recognized figure, so it really does increase your risk for hypertension and metabolic diseases in general, and increases your health risk. So weight amount around the middle is something that we need to watch, particularly for men. And then exercising regularly. And it doesn't have to be loads and loads of exercise. It's just something moving your body for a certain, maybe 20 minutes every day. It doesn't have to be that huge workout that people dread and think, oh, if I don't do loads of exercise, it won't have any impact. Yes, every little bit counts. And we always talk about this, Derek, is every little bit of exercise counts. It doesn't have to be huge amounts. So something regular every day to move your body, increase that blood flow through your veins, which is also going to open up your veins and arteries and widen the passages of that blood, so reducing your blood pressure. Also managing, a healthy, balanced diet, getting loads of fruit and vegetables and plenty of fiber, and very low intake of processed food, and plenty of oily fish and good fats. Or, and not saturated fats, which is the risk ones. They're the ones that tend to lay themselves nicely along our arteries and increase the blood pressure risk. So, the good fats, the fiber, the fruit and vegetables, lower salt intake, which, we don't even have to add salt to food to have a high salt intake. It's added as a preservative in many, many foods. We don't even know about it.
Let me just throw it around in the studio here. I mean, Tony, first of all, why do you think, we have a shorter lifespan than women? Is it the way you cope, or we deal with? Is it the way we deal?
I think it's quite possible. I think men, in general, lack a little motivation. We don't take enough responsibility for ourselves. When we don't emotionally, we don't share, we don't take advice. That could be a number of reasons. You know, I'm certainly not an expert on it. But you know, for me, I think it's just understanding that women rule the world and we're just passengers in it, and there's a conspiracy against all men.
Okay. Yeah, I hear you.
Nonsense.
You had something to say. In your household, and you're a married lady, right? Who looks after your old man's health?
Yeah, so I was thinking when I was just listening to this, it is more me that pushes it. So I might recognise the things that are there, but I think in my household, we are very equal. You know, I'll change a tyre with the rest of them. However, my husband is very, very much that. He's our protector. He wants to look after, you know, me and the children. So he will almost put his own health aside for the benefit of ours, and the same with stress. I think he will hide a lot of what he's dealt with because he feels that he has to be the strong and brave one to take care of us. And I think that's like the problem with us. And again, with his health, it's always me that's like, right, I'm phoning the doctors. I'm going to get you in.
And Kerry, is that the same with you?
Well, yeah, I've just upped the life insurance now. I've read that fact. So, and like I said, we don't nag the men to death.
Yeah.
But what I was thinking, and I say to my friends, we do have to look after our men. Because I think you say men from Mars, women from Venus, accept that fact and move on from it, because they are the hunter-gatherers. They feel they've got to provide, and that in itself is a stress for, well, it goes back to prehistoric times, doesn't it? It's naturally ingrained. But we got to take care of our men. And things that I've learned over the years, again, you know, you learn as you go on, don't you, that don't give them a hard time. If you were with your friends 24/7, you would be fed up with them. My best friends in the world, after 3 or 4 days together, they need to go. Now, you're with somebody 24/7, give them a break. It's okay to watch a different television programme. It's okay to say, you know what, and who am I to tell you how to behave and how to look after your health? But I do want the best for you. Now, it's your choice whether you go and do something about that. Because the more I go on about it to them, the guiltier they're going to feel, and guilt is the biggest cause of stress and illness, I believe, and we don't address that. So we're looking at why are we so invested in trying to be big and bulky, trying to be healthy, trying to be all these things that actually we're not supposed to be, really. We've got to take a step back and enjoy life. It doesn't matter if you miss the odd meal, the odd gym thing. Yes, we've got to look after our health. But look after, you know, I was saying earlier, our mental health, and try not to get too upset about things and reaching for the pill cabinet. Just take yourself to a quiet place.
But isn't there driving men to be always the one that goes out and earn the bread and come home and look after the family?
Yes.
Isn't that how it is?
Yes, and we are very grateful to you for that. But also,
you want them
okay.
around.
We do.
Yeah,
we do. And we ourselves have got to take our responsibility. Does it matter that tea's on the table at 6 and they got in at 10 past?
Right.
Does it really matter in the scheme
But what
of
about the
things?
saying, right? Many a man has sacrificed his health in pursuit of wealth, and then spent his wealth trying to regain his health. And all that he found was a grave. What about that?
Absolutely. And sadly, as you know, I take funeral services. The saddest ones, apart from children, are when a couple decide to retire 2 or 3 years earlier. They've worked and worked and worked, made sacrifices. Then they decide to retire, say, at 60, and one sadly passes away. And it happens a lot.
Yeah.
It happens a lot.
Yeah.
So, yes, we can't sell our houses and then just go off. Well, you can do that if you want to, but we've got to be sensible about these things. But don't put off the, you know, does it really matter?
Yeah.
We haven't got the latest edition of the fanciest shirt and the biggest car. It doesn't matter.
I know, but I'm saddened at the way, in fact, men do work really, really hard, and then they're looking for their health, and their health is down the road trying to play catch-up. And I really can't understand, you know, considering your family is important, everything you're working for is important, and the day comes you retire, right, you've lost everything because you've neglected your health.
And why did you do that? did you feel? You felt guilty because you had to provide for the woman. You felt guilty you had to provide for your children. And who on their deathbed said, I wish I'd spent more time at the office? No one.
I know.
So, you have to take a bit of responsibility, you men. We are trying to look after you, we're the nurturers. You have to do it.
Yeah,
Please.
that's right. I want to move on. I mean, we're painting a picture, of course, of generally men's health and what we all need to be looking at. But there's a real serious part of why we're here today, and it's to address the issue of prostate health. Every single person on Zoom right now and the different stages of prostate health, I've been there. And it's a subject at one time we never spoke about. We ignored it. Right? And it's amazing when I went out on the street and the people I spoke to about prostate health. Let's just see if we can find that VT and listen to what they had to say. How often do you guys check your prostate?
Never.
Never. And you,
Well,
I had a feeling that you did. Can I ask you, how old are you?
36 now.
36, okay.
Yes.
In the next 4 years, there's
Yeah.
one part of your body that you need to start checking. Do you know where that is?
No.
Your prostate.
Okay.
Men don't check it often enough. I bet you've never thought about it.
Yeah, I definitely have thought about it
Well,
already.
start thinking about it more, because
Yeah,
I'll tell you why, right? Men, black men, are 4 times more likely to get prostate cancer than white men.
Yeah.
When was the last time you had your prostate checked?
Oh, well, you're going to be highly disappointed because I've never had my prostate checked.
Well, I am disappointed.
And I am getting closer to the age of 50. I'm 47 now.
Now, guess
so-
what? The moment you turn 40,
Yeah.
you've got to have it
Why is
checked. You know, because I think prostate, I mean, I've lost a good friend of mine who had prostate cancer, and he was detected so late, right? When in fact, early detection is important. And men, you want to ask him these questions. When you stand in front of that toilet, is there a gap between you wanting to pee and being able to pee? That's the first sign.
To be fair,
Yeah.
that's all right saying check it, but I don't know how to.
Okay, that's important, right?
Because a lot of men don't know what they're looking for.
But the thing is, right, the first thing is, it's not so much you're looking for the prostate, but what you're checking is, when you go to pee, is it as strong as it used to be? Right, that's the first thing. Can you do rings? Can you do letters in the bowl? After all, all men do it. Right? It's only because you're married to the second best looking man.
I'm not married to him.
I love it. I love it. Yes, I went out the streets and had a laugh about a real serious subject, right? And prostate is something that affects, you know what, most men. The problem is that a lot of men in denial and they don't check themselves. And so I want to talk about this and look at the different stages. And I think the first person to go to really is Mark, because quite a few years ago, Mark, you had prostate problem, yes?
Yeah, it's 10 years. It'll be 10 years in a few weeks that I had the operation.
Yeah.
So it'd be about 10 years and 3 months when I actually found out that I had prostate cancer. It was interesting that my dad had prostate cancer, and that's why I went to check, but he had left it too late. And what happened to him was he had to have his bladder removed eventually because he left it too late. So I went and had a check. I never had no symptoms. So it was quite interesting when I went to have the check. Now, some people think that it's the old finger up there, whatever, but it's not that. It's just a simple blood test where they check your
PSA
PSA.
check.
Yeah. So that you know, it's only just a jab, and then you can actually find out early and to know whether you have prostate cancer. The National Health was great. I went in, had the check. Next day, I got a call from the doctor, and he said, "Look, your PSA is a bit high. Come in and get it. You know, let's double check it to make sure that there's not a false reading." Went back. It was high. Then he sent me off to the hospital to get all the other checks. The interesting thing, you have about 6 or 7 checks for them to actually confirm. The last one is where they actually take some biopsies of the prostate. And I'd gone through all of the other checks and everything had come up clear. So I'm thinking, whoa, I'm clear, man, you know? the last check, I remember going into the doctor's room, and he came back and he said, "You've got prostate cancer." I said, "Really?" I smiled. He said, "You're smiling." I said, "I've caught it early, don't I?" He said, "Yes, I think you have," which that takes a lot of pressure off you. You realize you may not, it's not that you're going to die soon. You got a chance. So he said, you've got two choices. You can have a prostatectomy, which you take the prostate out, or you can have the radiology or whatever. And I said, what do you think? Which is the best one? And I said, he said, if you don't really want to worry about it, you should have the prostatectomy, but it's really down to you. So I chose to have it out. Within a few weeks, I'd had it out, and that was 10 years ago. I've never taken any medication. The operation was quite straightforward. The operation took a few hours, and you're in hospital for like 1 or 2 days. Then you go home and have to retrain your urine back. You have to hold the flow and all that kind of stuff. But I must say that 10 years later, I'm still here and making sure I look after myself. I exercise regular every morning. Yeah, and I've made sure I've cut certain things out of my diet. No longer do any salt. I don't add salt to my food. I've cut out the sugar, and I exercise regular. And I also took up a vegetarian lifestyle, which that was quite good for me. Yeah. So I hope that I'm here for at least another 30 years. Looking as good as Mr. Heaven, Derek, Mr. Motivator. Thanks for bringing this up, and that's my story. I think a lot of us black men need to really treat it serious. I'm always telling all my friends, make sure you have your prostate done. A friend of mine was buried recently because he left it too late, and he's younger than me, and he's finished. So as long as we catch it early, and again, that was 10 years ago when I had the operation. Things have improved. Things have got better.
Alex, you're going through it. Tell me your story.
Yes. My story is basically that suddenly I noticed my urine flow was decreasing. I'll be honest with you, I was aware of it, but I ignored it for about roughly 6 months. And it was only when I was always brought up to check the bowl before you leave the bathroom. And on flushing the toilet, I noticed there was a trace of blood. And I'll be honest with you, I panicked. I really did panic, and I ignored it again as probably a one-off.
Is that fair?
And it was only within the same week I saw it again. And I went straight to the doctor and told him what I'd experienced. And like Mark, they took a blood test. I went through all the same tests that Mark just mentioned, actually. And everything was fine until, again, the biopsy. It was the biopsy that really, I would say, it was such an emotional experience, but an experience that I had to go through. What happened to me was, I went there. First of all, I had bowel cancer tests, etc. beforehand. I went through the whole program. But on the biopsy notes, I went there. I went in, totally frightened. I was on my own. I didn't want anybody with me to hold my hand or anything. I was totally on my own. I was explained what was going to take place, and I was petrified. Now, I don't mean to sound like it was a chaotic scene of being frightened, because I don't want to put other people listening off who haven't been checked. But that is what it was for me. They did 33 samples from my prostate. Out of the 33, there was 13 which they called active samples. And from the 13 active samples, there was one sample that showed a very minimal trace of cancer. Okay, that was explained to me that basically, if they were to pick on 100 men out in the street, most men would be walking around with what they found in me. So I was not to worry.
Mm-hmm.
Easier said than done. Just hearing the word cancer that's a doorstop.
Yeah.
You know? I left that surgery I left that hospital that day,
Mm-hmm.
and I was walking back to my car, which was about a quarter of a mile away. And I remember phoning my mother to tell her the news, because she said to me, please let me know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I cried for the whole duration of that journey back to my car.
And Alex, how are you now when it comes to the stress of what you're having to deal with? I mean, each day when you get up, how do you feel? Are you really thinking, is today a good day or a bad day? Where are you?
I don't even think about it, to be quite honest.
Good.
When I wake up in the mornings, I mean, I'm up at 4:45 every morning.
Yeah.
I drive 33 miles into central London for work.
Yeah.
Every single morning I take my tablets.
Yeah.
And before I leave, go to work, I know that my procedure had to involve going to the toilet to pass water twice.
Right.
My symptoms come in two phases. The initial phase will be, to put it politely, it could be more often than not a drip, drip, drip.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Within 10, 15 minutes of that, I know there's going to be a second phase.
Yes.
And that second, because basically my bladder never empties. It never empties completely. I have to go through the two phases for that to happen.
Yes.
That second phase is the more dangerous phase, because if I'm impatient or something happens between the first and second phase, and I'm not near a toilet, it could spell trouble.
In trouble.
You know?
Yeah.
Can I just say as well, I just want to mention, if nobody's aware, you can actually obtain a card from the Prostate Cancer Society. I've got two of them, one as a spare.
Yes.
And I carry that around my neck every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter where I am, especially when I'm on the tubes around London, there's been times when I've needed to use the toilet, okay? I can't use a bottle because I'm in a public place.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had to show that card to a member of staff, and only on one occasion has somebody sort of, to put it politely,
can't use my bottle
because they thought I was messing around.
Mm.
You know? That card is also a lifesaver. You can get it through to GP, anybody.
Tony, you know what I'm going to say?
It's exactly the same as me with Alex.
Yeah.
And being out and about, when I got my diagnosis, excuse me, one of the things that first things the doctor said to me was, this is something you're going to die with, not of, right? It's not debilitating, but just like Alex, you have those frustrations when, you know, like we all do it, you need a wee, the closer you get to home, the more the urge to pee is. And many a day I've had to cancel or, you know, quickly fly home, and then you leap over the fence, and then you stumble with the keys, and then you get upstairs, and then you get to the toilet bowl, and it just goes, you think, well, for what? That whole day, the last 2 hours has been destroyed. Just for that little, and just like Alex, it's like you can never, and it's debilitating. You could be out with your friends, and you think, and your friends say pint, and they all have a pint, and you, at the back of your mind, you think, cannot even attempt to drink that. Because, you know, you'll be the first one at the toilet. You broke the seal. They've got no idea until you actually open up and you say, actually, this is not a prostate condition. You know, it's quite swollen, and it's like contracted on my bladder or something like that. And you tell your mates that, and they're like, oh, sorry, you know, we wasn't aware of that. It's a good way to get the message across, actually. But Alex, thanks for sharing your story.
Yeah, no, his story is amazing. Just
really
show us that,
resonated with
Alex, if you can. Before we move on, I think your story is amazing, by the way. Thank you so much for sharing,
Yes.
Just hold it up.
This is the card that I was talking about, okay?
Okay. Urgent, have
See,
medical
it says
attention.
urgent, okay?
I need to use all...
Now, this is a card.
Yeah.
If I turn it round, you can see it's actually given from the Prostate Society.
Yes.
Okay?
That's a great idea,
Yes.
Alex.
Okay, now, I've got two of these, and as I say, I do not go anywhere, even when I'm not working.
Yes.
That card stays with me all the time. It's been a lifesaver. Can I just say as well, once I don't know the gentleman to your left, Derek.
Tony.
You were just speaking a minute ago.
Yeah.
I have had a few accidents where you reach the point of absolutely no control whatsoever. And then, I don't care what anybody says, there is a point where you can control your breathing to try and minimize the urgency, but you reach a point where there is absolutely nothing you can do. And I have had about 3 or 4 experiences of that. Fortunately, they've all been at night when I'm getting into my car. Very, very fortunate, because basically nobody has seen my misfortune.
Alex, sorry,
Derek.
Alex, I had a similar experience, but in the daytime, trying to get my daughter into the car in Tesco's car park, and although I know I shouldn't have felt like that as it was happening, I just felt like coming out of me was dignity and shame. Luckily, I was at the car, so I could quickly get her in the car and I could, jump in the driver's seat. But I know where you're coming from, and it's soul destroying, and it does feel like it's taken.
I mean, my current situation right this minute, only last Friday, I had a consultation one-on-one, and I'm now on the waiting list to have surgery. And the surgery that I've decided to have is what they call HOLEB surgery, which is basically they shave away some of your prostate to release the pressure on your urethra and your bladder. Okay. Mark earlier on touched a note. Can I just say, I never used to understand why men would not put themselves forward to be checked, etc. On the flip side of what I've been through, I can now understand it, because let's be honest, it's not pleasant. Some of the examinations are not pleasant. Let's be honest. However, it's going to save your life.
Alex,
it's going to save your life.
Yeah, Alex, listen, thank you for your story. It's incredible. And in fact, I know I should bring the ladies in, but I'm not even going to touch them at the moment. I'm just going to move on, because I think this conversation is really developed, and I could add to the embarrassment, right, of being caught short, right? Because trust me, when my prostate was enlarged, and there was a point at which I actually had to wear a bag, right? And I always remember wearing this bag, going to an appointment in London, right? And the bag was filling up, and I had it strapped around my leg, right? And it filled up, and I hadn't emptied it on the train. And when I came off the train, walking to the car, I was desperately wanting to go, and I was at the point where my bladder was actually returning. In fact, it was a point at which I'd gone to the bathroom a few days before, and I could not pee. Nothing would happen, nothing. Anyhow, so there I am, right, coming out the train station, this bag tied around my leg, and it's full, and it's sliding down my leg, and I'm desperately embarrassed trying to pull this bag up. And I could see my car in the distance, and that urgency to go again, and I knew the bag wouldn't be able to hold it, and I'm thinking, what the hell do I do? Palm was in, I said to Palm, I've got to go somewhere, right? I don't know where to go. So I noticed around a corner, there's a darkened corner, right? I went behind this van, and before I was able to take the bag off or to turn it off, right, I went. My whole clothes was wet, the whole lot. And there was the most embarrassing thing in the world, and I didn't know what to do. And I went back into the car, right, and I sat in the seat with this wet pants and everything else. And I looked at Palm and I went, my Lord, that old saying, once a man, twice a child, right, really is so true, because at that moment I felt totally I didn't have any control of what was happening, right? And Palmer, we cleaned up everything, right, and got rid of the bag and emptied it and stuff like that. And this has all come about because we picked up an infection, which all older people get. Anyhow, I got home, and a few days later, Palmer said to me, she was there with Abigail, and she said to me, what you went through, by the way, is no different. Both of us have had that problem, right? It's just that most women would admit to that fact they got caught short, right? And they've had that accident. But trust me, the embarrassment you feel, right? The way in which it kind of belittles you, where you feel all of a sudden, right, that you're no longer that man who's macho and strong. It really was a kind of leveler, and it kind of reduces you almost to tears, right? Because you think to yourself, I've got to get in control of this. And the one thing I know, by the way, because it's never happened since, is that was during a period when I was ill because of some mental and stress issues, is that the more you exercise, and you exercise your pelvic floor And men don't exercise their pelvic floor. The more you stop when you go to pee, stop, release, the more you exercise that pelvic floor, the stronger it gets. I want to go on to one other person in the room here, right? And his story is amazing, and it's David. And David, I want to take you way back. What was the first point at which you noticed that there was a problem?
Basically, I was getting up 3-4 times a night to go to the loo. That's the start of it. And, you know, honestly, I just thought it was just getting old, really. So I lived with that for a while. And then came the bit where you're bursting to go to the loo. You get there, stand there. Listen, I had some terrible nights. I remember one night I was bursting to go to the loo. Get up, 5 minutes in the loo, absolutely nothing. This is about 2:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. I literally went around the block for a walk. I was, you know, I didn't know what to do. I was bursting and I just couldn't go. All right, so obviously I went to the doctors and they put me on this drug, Tamsulosin. And yeah, and that helped because then I started, but I still was not emptying my bladder fully. So that went on. I think I was using that tablet for about 18 months, 2 years almost, right? And then what happened? Yeah, so how the cancer came about now. So I normally do annual medical. And I remember 2022, I didn't do one. And then I had somebody in my ear keep telling me that you need to go and do it.
I wonder who that was.
So anyway, we were going a cruise. I think after when I get back from a cruise, I'll do it. So in the January when I got back, I went to the doctor and they said, your PSA level is a bit high. That's okay. We check it again in 3 weeks. 3 weeks time, we checked it, still high. 6 weeks time, and then we checked it, still high. He said, well, yeah, I'm going to send you to the hospital to get some tests. And we got the MRI test. And that was a bit of a trauma, to be honest. I've had MRI before, and I don't know, this time I feel very claustrophobic. I know they're going to put me to sleep, but eventually I did some breathing and I got it done. Right. So they called me up and the doctor said to me, well, we see little shudders here on your prostate and I'm not sure what it is, but to be certain we're going to have the biopsy. So for me, they took 17 clippings of the biopsy and 4 of it was on the, actually 3, and 1 was more or less, he said that one is definitely cancerous. So again, just like Alex, they gave me the choice of having radiation or surgery. And obviously I spoke to my doctor, speak to more people and stuff, and they said, oh, for your age and fitness and whatever, we would recommend that you have the operation. Mm-hmm. So this was last August, all this diagnosis thing. I eventually went for the operation in December last year. And that was straightforward. Actually, I had a friend of mine who had done it about 4 years ago as well. And he told me all about the operation, you know, how they use this robot and everything and what have you. Right? So, you know, I had a little bit of knowledge about it, and me, I love to do my research as well. So I did a lot of research, so I knew what to expect. Had the operation, and for me, I only stayed in hospital one night. Mm-hmm. Right? The funniest thing though is I realized how much you need your core. Man, that first, I could not get out of bed. Luckily, I was in a hospital where you can, you know, the bed moves up. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing they say. You must get up. As soon as you get up and you start walking, the better. But I couldn't get up until the bed comes up. So I got up and anyway, got home, and my story was a little bit different in that I had an infection from the catheter. Man, I never felt so much pain in my life. I'm telling you, from when I had the infection for the catheter, went to the hospital. But funny enough, the hospital wouldn't do anything about it. All they was giving you was pain medicine, which I was already taking. So anyway, it passed. Again, I had the catheter longer than realistically, because it was over Christmas. It was sort of delayed because I was only supposed to have it in for about 2 weeks. I ended up having it in for about 3 weeks because just when it was about to come out, the Christmas holiday started. So I have to wait until the new year, basically. Anyway, I had another infection again, went to the doctor. The doctor gave me a note to take to the hospital to have it removed. But again, the hospital said you have to go back to the original surgeon. We can't do anything. The funny thing is, man, I tell you, I have a lot of sympathy for people who have to go to A&E. My first visit to A&E, in a lot of pain. Imagine waiting for 6 hours and then they tell you to take some
ibuprofen.
Yeah. 6 hours, waiting for that.
Right.
Anyway, so I had a catheter removed now, and I tell you, it makes me smile now that I think of it, because I remember after the catheter came out, and I went to the toilet for the first time.
Eureka!
So strong. It felt like my bloodstream was so strong. I remember smiling, and I'm like, man, the last 2 years, it was a drip, drip, drip. 1 hour later, you're running back to the toilet again. And
Brilliant.
yeah, so anything since then. And I've had, every 3 months I go for a check, and so far, so good.
Yeah, thank you so much, David. Listen, we are going to have to return to this subject because these stories are so important for every single man who are watching, ladies who are watching, because getting checked is important, right? I remember coming to see you with the 4 holes in your stomach and stuff like that, and the pain you're under, and when someone's in pain, you want to do what you can for them. Craig, I am so sorry that we haven't been able to get to you, but if we will bring you in on further things as we go along. But I think right now we've got to really kind of wrap things up. Lish, I'm sorry we weren't able to get to you. Everyone here, thank you all for being here, but we have kind of run out of time, right? So it's a wrap for today's episode of Say Yeah. We've covered a lot of ground on men's health. Miss Palmer, I'm sorry we weren't able to get to you to talk about how you deal with someone in your life who has prostate problems. Anyhow, we're here to break down barriers, right? If you need help, right, medical help, please, reach out. The more you get to understand your body, the better you will feel. The more you have conversation with friends, neighbors, and everyone else, right, about the situation. Just talk about it in general. I talk about it all the while, no matter who I meet. You've got to prioritize your health. It isn't just about adding years to your life. It's about adding life to your years. Kathy, thank you for being here. Mark, thank you. The story, Alex, was been brilliant, right? We've also got Tony here. We've got Trey, I can't remember now. Kerry, that's a problem they have when you're trying to handle everything. Listen, all the guys in the studio, all the guys behind camera, thank you all for being here. My audience of 2, thank you for being here. Take those proactive steps. Reach out for support when you need it, and keep moving forward with strength and confidence. A huge thank you to everybody, all the experts, your valuable insights, and to you, our listeners, for tuning in. Stay active, stay informed, and keep striving for a healthier you. Until next time, you guys got to stay positive, stay motivated. You got to be well, and remember, say yeah.
Yeah!